This programme offers an example of a science lesson which links key Stage 3 modules, food and digestion and fit and healthy, to Ready to Learn, the experiment. The lesson establishes which environmental factors can affect readiness to learn, and then sets out to assess their impact through a process of research, practical experiments and classroom discussion. What does the brain need in order to function properly? And how might students best maximise their potential by creating a good environment in which to learn? Holly Power and Cato Gorman teach science at Riddlesdown High School in Purley, Surrey. Today they are teaching their Year 8 class using a lesson plan devised by Matthew Tosh, a former science teacher, now working with the British Association for the Advancement of Science.
3, 2, 1,
We've designed the lessons so that they fit in with the curriculum. The teacher can see the link to their everyday teaching. At Key Stage 3, we're looking at food and digestion, fit and healthy, and the effects of chemicals on the brain.
Okay, I'm just going to start off today's lesson by looking at what we think it means to be ready to learn. I'm going to read out a list of different factors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to think about these statements, and then if you agree, if you think it does affect our readiness to learn, I'm going to ask you to go to this side of the room, okay, where it says yes or on that side. If you don't think it has anything to do with your readiness to learn, then I would like you to move to this side of the room where it says no. Number 1, how about how much water you've had to drink, how hydrated you are? Okay, so up you get. If you think it has an effect on our readiness to learn, over here. If it doesn't, over here. I thought with this group in particular, it was good to get them up and active, to move them around the room and then bring it back to discussion at the end so we could focus on ones where there was some disagreement within the class. How about the amount of natural daylight in the room? Does that affect your readiness to learn? Ooh, okay. Right, we'll come back to that one again. Even if they went to the no side when we expected them to go to the yes, they all had valid reasons as to why that was the case, and that's the most important thing. So if they can justify why they did that, then that's what it's all about. How about how intelligent you are, your IQ score?
The importance with the lessons is to get across the idea of readiness to learn is not academic ability. So the starter activity in the Key Stage 3 lesson does just that. It's got discussion cards to promote discussion amongst the pupils. Now there's some points on there that might be a bit debatable, and that's great because we want children to think, what actually is readiness to learn?
We've got some research information for you, and this information pack tells you some information about foods which are good for the brain. Okay, I'm going to ask you to get into groups of 4 with a couple of research packs and the piece of A3 paper, and you are going to complete the table.
Okay, so it has natural sugar.
Oh, okay. Didn't it say something about cancers? Yeah, it says if you have too much, it's bad for your heart, and then it's linked to certain cancers.
They obviously knew what food groups each food belonged to, because that's what we've done in food and digestion, but they don't know the reasons why certain foods are good for you and why they're not so good. So it was a good opportunity to interact and discuss in groups and pull the ideas together. What we're going to do now is we're going to take some feedback from the research you've just completed about the different foods, about what foods are good for the brain and what foods might not be so good and we might consider as being bad for the brain.
Sugar foods are bad because it can cause major altering moods and because it gives your blood an instant sugar rush, but can lead to aggression and tiredness later.
Instead of eating them foods, you could have a piece of fruit instead.
Why would fruit be good for the brain, Kirsty?
Because it's a source of vitamins and minerals.
And we've already said vitamins and minerals maintain physical and mental health. Okay, so we're going to talk about now how this all relates to you. I'd like you to think about all the things you've learnt so far today and to think about how that affects your readiness to learn, okay, and every lesson that you have at school. So could you put your hand up if you wouldn't mind telling me what you ate for breakfast today?
I had a banana and a poached egg.
What are the 7 food groups that you know about is in, say, for instance, the poached egg?
Protein.
Well done. There's a lot of protein in poached eggs, and we've learned already about how that helps our brain to function. What did you have to drink with your breakfast?
I had a cup of tea.
Now, caffeine is actually a type of drug. Can anyone tell me the name of the type of drug caffeine is?
Is it a stimulant?
Excellent, well done. It's a stimulant. It quickens your reaction speed, OK?
At Key Stage 3, one of the aspects to look at is drugs and the effect that has on the brain. So we've included an option in the lesson to do a caffeine experiment whereby you look at the heart rate and maybe pupils' rate of response before and after drinking a caffeinated drink.
Do you think this experiment was very accurate?
Well, it wouldn't have been that accurate because the ruler could have been like wobbling and it might have gone sideways.
Anything else that can make it less accurate? Connor?
It needs time for the caffeine to get into your bloodstream.
OK, so what we need to do is when we evaluate an experiment, we need to think about how we could have made it more accurate and what we'd do next time. So what would you do next time if you were to repeat this experiment?
I would pour the Coke into a beaker and measure out how much I was going to take.
OK, so you could measure it accurately, so it's not just 1 cup, it's 50 ml or something like that. When we do the test that you did earlier on the computers, the readiness to learn test, and any science experiment, we need to take into consideration, are there any other factors that might affect the results other than the thing we're changing? After they did the caffeine practical, I wanted them to think about some of the SC1 background and to kind of introduce the concept of extraneous variables and to get them to come up with them themselves. And they did quite well at coming up with other things that might affect reaction rates. What we're going to use today is an online reaction time test. And we're going to test the variable of silence and noise. When you feel that you're ready to start and you're going to be as quick as possible, you click here and it'll say click here on the green light. The first time we do it, we'd like the class to be absolutely silent, please. Okay? So we're going to hopefully see how noise affects his concentration.
And the sorts of tests that teachers could then do with the children are arithmetic tests, there are online tests, memory tests, there's lots of options. Whatever you think fits in best with your class.
Lovely, OK. I'd like you to try again now, Edward, and this time I'm going to ask the class to make as much noise as you can, OK? If you want to wave your arms about, try and get his attention, and we're going to see what happens. If we were to repeat it, what could we do differently?
You could get someone else to do the noisy one.
Good, so what we're going to do now is we're going to ask somebody else to do it again, but you're going to do noisy first, and then they're going to do quiet afterwards. Whenever you're ready, let's hear you. It's quite difficult to stand there for a whole minute and listen to them yelling at each other. There are lots of other variables you can look into that do affect your reaction rate. For instance, the environment. So you could put them in maybe a hot room and a cold room or a dark room. Our results actually have shown us today that we can react quicker when it's noisy. What might be the reason for why there's a big difference between Ed's score and Kirsty's?
And I noticed on Edward's quiet one, the first time he did it, he took like twice as long as all the other times. He might have just not been like used to it.
Definitely. I think that's a fair point. What have we learned today that might have affected the difference between Kirsty and Edward?
Unable to have breakfast.
Excellent. Let's find out what they had for breakfast. Edward, what did you have?
I had a cup of tea with 2 sugars.
More sugar. And what did you have, Kirsty?
A glass of milk and a banana.
OK, Kirsty had a banana and Edward had a cup of tea with 2 sugars. How might that affect his alertness?
Kirsty had natural sugar and Edward didn't.
Excellent. So, guys, what I want you to have taken from this is the things we need to take into consideration when doing a science experiment. So take into account everything that you have learned today, and I want you to plan your perfect day for learning. Okay? So you're going to tell a story from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. All lesson they'd been learning about the things that can affect them, but I then wanted them to think about how they can put that knowledge into practice. They can then kind of apply that to how they behave and how they act every day, and what things they can do to improve their reaction and their concentration. Okay, hands up. Who would like to share their perfect day for learning? Don't be shy.
After a good night's sleep, feeling awake and refreshed. After washing my face, I go to the kitchen and have a piece of fruit and some fresh fruit juice.
Ideally, there will be lots of positive benefits of this, particularly getting children to understand how to become better learners. Then perhaps children can modify the way that they set up their learning environments at home.
And to download resources and lesson plans, please go to www.teachers.tv/experiment.